What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Open Championship, the final major of the year. But before we jump into the tools and everything, I do want to make a few announcements. So this recording is obviously coming out early. I'm doing that for two reasons. The pricing is out, so I wanted to get a first look. You could start doing research as early as possible. And also, I'm going on my honeymoon next week. I'll be in Mexico. So I figured if I could knock it out now, I wouldn't have to worry about it because time will be a bit of a crunch in a few days. So a couple reasons why it's going out early. With that being said, I do not know the conclusion of the John Deere Classic or the Scottish Open. So keep that in mind. You're hearing everything analysis-wise without the conclusion of the John Deere or the Scottish Open. Okay, a couple other housekeeping items. This is something that has come up a few times. Everything you see in this video, all of the tools, they're my tools. They're from dfsondemand.com, which is the site that I run. I have some winners of memberships, weekly memberships for you guys from the contest of last week. The winners are BMR031 and On the DL. That's from YouTube and from iTunes. So I've been getting everybody set up with these accounts each week. Seems like it's going really well. So you two guys, I'll reach out. But if I don't have your contact information, feel free to shoot me an email through the website, dfsondemand.com, and I'll get you all set up. We'll do it again this week, okay? So I'll pick a few other winners. I'll pick multiple because there is going to, it's the Open Championship. Everybody wants to get involved. So here's what you can do to win a subscription to DFS On Demand and get access to these tools and our Slack channel. Two ways to get in. On YouTube, make sure that you've liked this video and subscribed to the channel. Helps in a big way. And just tell me who you think is going to win this week. Leave a comment below. Otherwise, if you're listening to the podcast version of this on iTunes, also a big help. Just leave a 5-star review. Say something nice about the show. That's it. I'll draw a bunch of winners for next week, and we'll go from there. I think that is about it. Let's get on to it, and I hope you enjoy. All right, let's jump right into the cheat sheet for this week in all its glory. The names that you have here get you so amped up. It's just, of course, with the major, it's star-studded. Of course, with the major, the pricing is soft. It is just so great to see this back for the final time this year. 5 guys over $10,000, which is what we say every week, led by Rory McIlroy at 11,600. And I feel the need to talk about Rory and why he deserves this price tag, because there is going to be a lot of discussion around Brooks and DJ and Rahm and Tiger, and that's all fine. But let's actually look and see why Rory has this $11,600 price tag. You already know by this point, Rory holds the course record at Royal Portrush. He shot it when he was 61, or when he was 61 years old. When he was 16 years old, it was a 61. That is going to be mentioned 1,000 times this week. You will be sick of hearing it. But let's look a little bit deeper at this. He's coming off He's coming off the win at the RBC Canadian. He had a top 10 at the US Open. His Open Championship history is nothing short of stellar. A win in 2014, did not play in 2015. A 5th in 2016, a 4th in 2017, and a 2nd last year. That is 4 straight top 5 finishes. I mean, quite honestly, he's a 3rd place away from, checking off all the boxes 1st through 5th in his last 5 starts. So maybe he'll finish 3rd this year. But what I want to show you, because the pricing doesn't necessarily dictate how good Rory's season has been. So let me just show you this. I'm going to sort this by tee to green real quick. So this is strokes gained, tee to green, average by round. He's averaging about 2.4 strokes per round tee to green on the plus side. That is basically 0.6 of a stroke better than Justin Thomas, who is the next best golfer there. Now, if you take another 0.6 off, it takes you down to about 1.2, Matt Kuchar. So basically, the gap between Rory McIlroy first to second, and Justin Thomas is the same gap between Thomas and Matt Kuchar, Kuchar is ranked third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 16th on this list. That's how big the gap is from Rory to JT, and then the same gap from JT to Matt Kuchar. He's lapping the field. If you look at off the tee numbers, which of course an Open Championship, there's a lot of things in play, but you're going to need to be good off the tee. Forget Chan Kim, who shows up first on this list at $6,100. That is a sample size of, I think, 2 rounds. So don't worry about that. Rory is 1.24 strokes gained off the tee per round. Bubba is 0.9. So again, about 0.3 of a stroke, a little bit more than that. If you take another 0.3 off, you're basically down at Abraham Answer. So again, Rory off the tee, lapping the field. The same gap between him in first and Bubba in second is the same gap between Bubba in second and Abraham Answer in like 15th. Phew. Okay, that is a long-winded way of saying Rory is having like an unbelievable season, like better than anybody, and I don't really think he's getting the credit for it. Maybe it's because he doesn't play a lot. I don't know how he's going to finish up at the Scottish this week, so like I don't know how he's playing, but this is just such a interesting spot that we have where Rory is head and shoulders statistically above the rest of the field. I cannot wait to see what his ownership comes in at, because there's so many great guys below him that you could roster if you wanted to. Speaking of those guys below Rory, Brooks Koepka will of course be popular because it's a major and everyone loves Brooks in a major, and they should. Jon Rahm will be incredibly popular. Here's Jon Rahm's last 3 starts. U.S. Open, 3rd place. Andalusia Masters, 2nd place. Irish Open, win. 3, 2, 1. I don't know what he can do. Can he finish 0th in 0 place this week? That's literally the trend he's headed on. If this pricing came out, this pricing came out, let me think, like 2 days after he won the Irish Open. So if this would have come out any earlier, he probably would have been a really good value. Unfortunately, that price gets up to $10,600. He's still a great play. But what I'm getting at here is it leaves Dustin Johnson in the absolute sandwich pricing at $10,900 between he's under Rory, he's under Brooks, he's more expensive than Tiger and Rahm, and JT sitting there coming off a missed cut like, hey guys, remember me? Like a month ago, I was the greatest player on the planet. I've already seen odds as long as 14 to 1 on DJ, which is probably some of the highest odds we've seen on DJ in a really, really long time. Granted, his British Open, or his Open Championship, I guess I should call it, results have been more volatile. So when you look compared to the rest of the studs, nothing near Rory's tournament history, but missed the cut last year, but he's piled on a few top 10s and a 12th place finish in the last 6 years. I feel like DJ is that leverage spot. DJ is the guy that you go out and he sits there in sandwich pricing and he comes in under owned and he has the absolute chance to win this golf tournament, of course, like he does every single time that he tees it up. So the leverage play to me is DJ in the 10,000s. I will probably be focusing a lot of my attention on Rory and DJ here in the upper tier. As with a lot of majors, the $9,000 range is stock full of all the guys that everyone's like, oh, let's just throw a balanced lineup. Let's get like 6 of these guys in there. And it's hard to argue with. So it starts with Justin Rose at 9,900, who another guy I'm really interested to see the ownership come in on. He's priced just under Tiger Woods, and he is by far the least sexy golfer on the planet, but he just competes and he wins, right? And he puts himself into contention every single week. 3rd place at the U.S. Open, 13th at the Memorial were the last 2 times that we saw him. 2nd place at the Open Championship last year. He has a really great record, 5 straight cuts made here in this tournament, including 2 top 6 finishes. He always seems to fly a bit under the radar more than he should. We'll see if he does again this week. We don't get the benefit of like an $8,500 Xander. We get a $9,500 Xander, who is basically, I don't even want to call him Brooks light. because he's been damn near just as good in majors. But if you go back, and let me see if I can pull this up really quick here because I want to make sure that I get this right. All right, so I'm just gonna read this off here on my other monitor. So this is all of Xander's finishes in what I would call big events. So these are either majors, invitationals, something like that, tough fields, tough courses. Working backwards. So most recently, U.S. Open 3rd, Memorial 14th, PGA Championship 16th, Masters 2nd, WGC Mexico 14th, Century Tournament of Champions win, WGC HSBC win. Last year, Tour Championship 7th, BMW Championship 3rd, Open Championship 2nd, US Open 6th, Players 2nd. I didn't really omit any big tournaments. I just listed them out, right? All the majors are there. The guy is literally a top 15 machine, a top 5 machine, and he's captured 2 wins. I mean, it's really incredible that in a similar fashion that Brooks kind of does, Xander just gears up for these events. A 2nd place finish last year at the Open Championship, a 20th the year before that. It's the only 2 times he's played it. The kid is an absolute stud. Excellent tee to green game. I'm willing to pay the extra $1,000 on what we normally get Xander at in fields like this and in majors like this. Couple other names down here that I think are worth mentioning, and it's Bryson and Justin Thomas. I was shocked to see this pricing come out and have Bryson still at 92. I know that he's been going through a rough run, but a 2nd place finish at the 3M and an 8th place at the Travelers, he is gearing up. He's getting right. Obviously, if he would have won the 3M, I think he gets closer to $10,000, coming in off of a win. But the 2nd place finish, $9,200, that's a pretty fair price for Bryson. And Justin Thomas is really the other... he's the other leverage point. He's the other guy, I think, in this field that will go mostly overlooked that can win the golf tournament, and he's at a really good price. I think Pat Mayo mentioned this in one of his shows recently, where basically, like, I think he mentioned in terms of odds, like if the odds came out for this in January, Justin Thomas would have been 18-1 or something like that instead of 30 or 40-1 that he is to win it today. And I think the same thing is similar to his DraftKings pricing. If this pricing would have come out, 3 months ago or in January, there's no way Justin Thomas is not a top 5 highest priced golfer here. So you get him at $9,100, tee to green game, stellar, putting, brutal. But what Justin Thomas has going for him, hopefully, is that he has not played since the Travelers. 36th at the Travelers. He has not played since then. He's going to tee it up at the Scottish Open again. I don't know what he's doing at the Scottish Open at the time of recording this. I'm hoping he got the putter right because he has been so bad on the greens in his last handful of starts. It's almost inconceivable that could continue. All right. Couple other guys worth mentioning here. So this is usually now the time of year where, everybody gets Kuchar plugged into all our lineups. You can plug Jason Day into them. But I think we're gonna have to plug Adam Scott into a lot of these lineups, and he's 8,800. The only knock you could ever say about Adam Scott at the moment is that we just haven't seen him play. Going back to the PGA Championship, which was in May this year? May. Then, no. So Players in March, Masters in April, PGA in May. Okay, so PGA in May. 8th place finish there, a 2nd at the Memorial, and a 7th at the U.S. Open. Those are 3 tough courses, tough fields, 3 top 10s, and we haven't seen him since. Excellent Open Championship history in the last 7 years. He's got 4 top 10s, has never missed a cut. We'll see him a bit more in the strokes gained section, I believe, but there's really no knock other than just a little bit of absence from Adam Scott. All right, I'll scroll down a bit here because I do want to get to the other tools, but I do think Stenson's really interesting. Obviously has won the Claret Jug before. Has 2. He's just another guy who hasn't played much. Two top 10s in his last 2 starts worldwide. Just again hasn't really played anywhere. But the guy a few clicks down that really jumped off at me is Mark Leishman. And I don't usually say that. I'm not a big Mark Leishman guy. I tend to think that he is a little overpriced, quite frankly. But you can't overlook him here at 7,700. I mean, he's in the same tier as like Eddie Pepperell, Matt Fitzpatrick, like Shane Lowry's more expensive. Like no chance in the world should Shane Lowry be more expensive. So Leishman at 7,700, fifth place at the Memorial, 35th at the U.S. Open, 21st at the Travelers. He's not burning the earth, but he's playing well enough. We have seen him win in elite fields. He can play up to his competition. And just look at his Open Championship history. It is a bit more volatile, but last 5 years, he has 3 top 6 finishes, a 6th, a 5th, and a 2nd. 2 kind of lame finishes otherwise last year, a 60th and a 53rd back in 2016. But 5 straight made cuts, 3 top 6s. Yeah, that's a pretty good record. Hits the ball well on approaches. He's a great tee to green player. So that number was one that really jumped out to me as being kind of wonky when I first saw it. All right, let's flip over to the strokes gained tool here, and I just want to go tee to green and look at some of these guys here and see who kind of stands out. So based on what I mentioned a few minutes ago, no surprise that Rory McIlroy is like head and shoulders above the rest of his peers up there above 11,000. I mean, he's the best in the field, so he should be the most expensive golfer. Let's see if we can find a little bit of value in each one of these tiers here. In the 10 to 11 range, DJ, Tiger, and Jon Rahm are all fairly close. In the 9 to 10 range, the bottom of it, Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas, those are the 2 guys that lead that pricing tier in terms of strokes gained tee to green. The guys that kind of fall behind would be Francesco Molinari, Bryson, and Ricky Fowler are also down there as well. Bryson obviously playing better as of late. The 8 to 9,000 range, so there's kind of 2 different sections of it. Hideki, Paul Casey, Adam Scott, and I guess Justin Thomas is in the $9,100 range. So those 3 guys, Matsuyama, Hideki, and Adam Scott lead the way there. And then the rest of them, Kuchar, Jason Day, Henrik Stenson, for example, they're about a full stroke back. And then really going down the list, oh man, it gets pretty ugly towards the bottom. This to me will probably be a week for much more balanced builds. Corey Connors is there, tee to green, Charles Howe III, Benny On, really the guys that can't putt. But let's look at this. Here we go. So this is that who's hot tool. And I actually just want to look at this because Adam Scott has not played a lot in the last 30 days. So I don't really want to look at his last 30 days because his last 30 days is really the U.S. Open. It's one tournament. So keep that in mind. But guys that are also really gaining tee to green in the last 30 days. Rory, we know that. Ches Reavie is there. Patrick Cantlay is there. And Paul Casey is there as well. These are guys that are really playing well. And I want to look off the tee because off the tee is going to be so critical. No surprise. Oh, wow. Xander. God, he's so good, man. Xander up here. Rory up here. Corey Connors, Paul Casey, and Dustin Johnson. That would actually probably be a pretty good lineup. I guess you couldn't get all those guys. I guess you couldn't get DJ, Rory, and Xander in the same lineup. But Corey at 6,300, if he makes a few putts, would be interesting. And our buddy Eric Van Rooyen, who doesn't get a lot of play on the PGA Tour, but in majors and other world golf events, he pops up. I do want to look at this really quickly, which is what we've been doing for all of our PGA events, and something I really like to find golfers who are putting poorly at the moment compared to their season-long average. And you'll see, so Richard Stern is on here, but that's only 6 rounds, so I would disregard that. Charlie Hoffman at $6,700 is basically giving up a stroke and a half on the greens per round, less than his season long. Again, I mentioned this, I think, in the John Deere video last week or in a video last week, and I want to be very, very clear about what we're looking at. This is not just finding the worst putters. This is not full bore team no putt, which I am kind of a believer in. But this is not that. This is guys who are putting below what we would expect them to. So if you are a great putter and you're averaging 2 strokes, you're plus 2 strokes putting per round, and right now you're neutral, you're not putting bad, but you're putting bad compared to what we would normally expect out of you. So that's what this is. This is an opportunity to find guys who have more strokes to squeeze out of their game. All right, so Charlie Hoffman is really the big name here at $6,700, where his putting is so bad at the moment, which would be the one stat that you would expect to come back more often than not because it's so volatile. Jason Kokrak is on this list, and then there is a really big name, Dustin Johnson, right here. And the more I keep looking at this, DJ is probably going to have to make quite a few of my lineups because he is priced at a really great leverage point for us. The fact that he's not over $11,000 in a major is awesome. We do not see DJ at 10-9 often. He obviously has the skill set to win any golf tournament that he tees up. And the one thing that you can point to that has really held him back has been the putter, which is not normal for him. It's very likely that he gets the putter right. Like he's not just going to become one of the worst putters on the tour overnight, right? He's been losing a stroke and a half on the greens per round in the last 30 days. He's been losing about 0.8 of a stroke per round. He normally gains about 0.4. That is a 1.2 stroke difference. That is nearly 5 strokes over the course of a tournament that he should be gaining back on the greens that he is not. So there is definitely room for improvement in DJ's game. This feels like a really, really good buy low opportunity. Same here with that other name I mentioned, the 2 pivot points, DJ and Justin Thomas. I don't know. I don't want to commit to anything this early. I wouldn't be surprised if I just put them both in all my lineups or in a lot of my lineups. I'll just live and die with those 2 guys. All right, and I do want to wrap up quickly here with the course key stats because obviously with the Open Championship rotating courses, I don't have Royal Portrush history. It hasn't been played here in like 68 years or whatever it is. So I don't have Portrush history. I have Open Championship history. So these are the stats for all the Open Championship courses. I think it's okay because for the most part, they're all kind of set up in a similar way. They can be played in similar places, similar conditions. The wind might start kicking up. They're usually link style courses. So there is something that we can kind of take away. So I'm not putting a whole heap of confidence in this, but I do want to talk about it. So the stats that showed up, as far as the highest correlated stats, are all no surprise. SDFA, which is a strokes differential stat. It's a little different than strokes gained, but it really says the cream of the crop. Cream rises to the top. Same with scoring average, same with strokes gained total, tee to green, and birdie or better. Those are going to be like the best players on the planet. The other ones are interesting. So lag putting showed up. Believe it or not. I think this is the only time we've ever seen lag putting show up. Putts over 25 feet. So I put them both together and we'll look at strokes gained putting. Some of these can be a little noisy. We'll put them together. We'll look at strokes gained. And then there was one birdie or better range, 175 to 200. So let's take a peek at this. I want to look at SDFA, and see where the value lies. So the guys that lead the way here are going to be the big names. Rory, Cantlay, Dustin, Adam Scott, Justin Rose, Xander are like the top 6. So the value there would kind of be what we mentioned before, which is Adam Scott only at 8,800, Patrick Cantlay 9,000. Strokes gained total is probably going to be something similar. Yeah, same guys. Sometimes we get some birdie or better value. Let's look at this. Gary Woodland, the best birdie or better player in the field. He's only 8,200. Then you get JT 91. So again, just makes a ton of birdies. The only knock against JT is that putter. Rory is 3rd. Bryson, great to see him in 4th. Patrick Cantlay and Brooks Koepka. There is value here. Aaron Wise, $6,900. Big time birdie maker. He has a lot of trouble in other aspects of his game, but hey, the guy can make some birds. I do want to look at let's do this. Let's go to this 175 to 200 number. And I actually have these. Oh, no, I don't have them backwards. This is a proximity stat. So the lower the number, the better. And Charlie Hoffman is second on this list. So Charlie Hoffman has now crossed off a couple of boxes for us, which is he's good in this, or I shouldn't say he's good. He's great in this really specific range that popped up on our regression. Now, whether we want to use that and say, hey, that, it's very important because we don't have port rush history, I don't know. I'm not putting that much emphasis on it, but he shows up here, and he shows up as a guy that his putter's probably going to come back to normal, and he's going to gain some strokes. He's going to pick up some strokes that way. Cantlay is third, DeChambeau, and then that name Mark Leishman, which is also interesting to see. So Leishman does just, you can see from, if you look across his line here, doesn't do anything super great, but does everything pretty well. Doesn't make a lot of bogeys. His scoring average is fine. His strokes gained is fine. His birdie or better is fine. It's like nothing great, but he does everything really, really good. Let's wrap with strokes gained putting, since putting did come up a few times. And now here's where things get a little bit interesting. So Graham McDowell, best putter in the field in terms of strokes gained. This is his home course. So I certainly would expect that to continue. He'll be popular at 7,900. Andrew Putnam, $6,600. Unfortunately, the putter is the only thing he really has going for him. And then you have Justin Rose, 9,900, who checks off a lot of boxes, right? He's a great SDFA. He's great putter. Very long driver of the golf ball. Like, he does it all. He's third here. And then to round out the top five, it's Spieth and Snedeker. All right, that's it. The Open Championship preview. This is a fun one. We are going to wake up early, especially on the West Coast, and be able to watch golf at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. It'll be super cool. If you'd like to enter a draw for access, for a week's worth of access to DFS On Demand, which is where all these tools came from, everything you saw, here again are the 2 ways to enter. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below and just tell me who's going to win this week. That's it. Simple enough. The other way to win is if you're listening to the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, preferably, give it a 5-star review and just say something nice about the show. That's it. I'll draw winners the following week, and we'll get you set up. Let me know what you guys think. You can also tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. I will talk to you soon. Good luck.